Cool facts about Team Fortress 2. Team Fortress 2 was originally a sequel to Team Fortress Classic, which was a mod for the game Quake. The development of Team Fortress 2 began in 1998 and went through multiple iterations before its final release in 2007. The game was originally going to be a realistic military shooter, but the developers decided to make it more stylized and over the top. The 9 playable classes in Team Fortress 2 were inspired by classic character archetypes from action movies and TV shows. The Heavy's signature weapon, the minigun, was originally going to be a handheld chain gun, but the developers found it too difficult to balance. The Medic's iconic overcharge ability was inspired by a similar ability in the game Wolfenstein: Enemy Territory. The game's iconic Meet the Team series of videos were originally created to promote the game's release, but became so popular that Valve continued making them even after the game came out. The Pyro class was intentionally designed to be androgynous, with its gender being deliberately ambiguous. Cool facts about CS:GO. The original version of Counter-Strike was actually a mod for the popular first-person shooter Half-Life. It was created by 2 programmers, Min Lu and Jess Cliff. The first beta release of Counter-Strike took place on June 19, 1999. CS:GO has a massive esports scene, with tournaments and leagues offering millions of dollars in prize money. The game's biggest event, the CS:GO Major Championship, has a prize pool of $1 million. CS:GO has had a number of controversies over the years, including allegations of cheating and match fixing, as well as criticism of the game's loot box system, which allows players to buy randomized boxes that may contain valuable skins or other items. The Counter-Strike Global Offensive CS:GO map Dust 2 is based on a real location in Morocco called 8 Ben Haddou, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The game's sound designer, Stefanos Apostolopoulos, recorded all of the weapon sounds for the game using real-life firearms and equipment. In 2018, a professional CS:GO player named S1Ample broke the world record for most kills in a single game, with a staggering 70 kills in a match. Cool facts about Dota 2. Dota 2 is a sequel to Defense of the Ancients, Dota, which was a popular mod for Warcraft 3, Reign of Chaos. Dota 2 has a player base of over 10 million monthly active users, making it one of the most popular online games in the world. The largest prize pool in esports history was awarded at the International 2019 Dota 2 tournament, which had a total prize pool of $34.3 million. In Dota 2, there are over 120 playable heroes, each with their own unique abilities and playstyles. The game has a complex and constantly evolving metagame, with players experimenting with different strategies and item builds to gain an advantage over their opponents. Dota 2 is known for its high skill ceiling, with professional players often performing incredible feats of skill and precision. The game has a steep learning curve, with new players often taking hundreds of hours to master even the basics of the game. Dota 2 has spawned a large and passionate community, with players creating fan art, cosplays, and even custom game modes using the game's engine. Cool facts about game. Pac-Man was originally called Puckman in Japan. Minecraft was created by a single person, Marcus Notch Persson. Tetris was invented by a Russian game designer in 1984. Donkey Kong was originally going to be a Popeye game. The highest scoring game of Galaga lasted over 28 hours. The first video game ever made was Tennis for Two in 1958. The world's largest arcade is in Iowa and has over 600 games. Sonic the Hedgehog was created to compete with Mario. Super Mario Bros. Was originally a sequel to Donkey Kong. The Legend of Zelda was inspired by creator Shigeru Miyamoto's childhood adventures. Did you know that in Destiny 2, players can earn an exotic weapon called the Rat King by completing a special quest with a group of other players who also have the weapon equipped? The game's soundtrack was composed by Michael Salvatore, Sky Lewin, and C. Paul Johnson, who have also worked on other Bungie games like Halo and Myth. Destiny 2 features a hidden exotic weapon called Whisper of the Worm, which can only be obtained by completing a secret mission that takes place in a special location on Io. One of the game's main villains, Dominus Gall, was voiced by actor Neil Kaplan, who has also lent his voice to other games like World of Warcraft and League of Legends. Destiny 2's Beyond Light expansion introduced a new playable subclass called the Stasis subclass, which allows players to freeze and shatter enemies with their abilities. Players can earn a unique title for their character by completing certain achievements in the game, like obtaining all of the game's exotic weapons or completing the game's raid on its hardest difficulty. The game features a hidden room called the Loot Cave, which was a popular farming spot until it was patched in 2014. One of the game's exotic weapons, the Jewlerhorn, was so powerful that it was considered a requirement for some endgame activities. Unknown facts about Modern Warfare. The game features a controversial mission called Highway of Death, which is based on a real-life incident where U.S. forces bombed a convoy of retreating Iraqi soldiers during the Gulf War. The game's developers worked closely with U.S. Navy SEALs to accurately depict tactics, equipment, and procedures used by the Special Forces unit. The game's engine was completely rebuilt for the 2019 release, allowing for more realistic graphics and improved gameplay mechanics. The game features a realism mode where players have limited HUD elements, no health regeneration, and more realistic weapon behavior. The game's main antagonist, the Wolf, was based on a real-life Syrian rebel leader who fought against ISIS and the Assad regime. The game features cross-platform multiplayer, allowing players on different consoles and PC to play together. The game's gunsmith feature allows players to fully customize their weapons with different attachments and modifications. The game's storyline is a reboot of the Modern Warfare series and is set in a fictional universe with real-world inspirations. The game's multiplayer features a mode called Ground War that supports up to 64 players in a large-scale, vehicle-based battle. Cool facts about The Witcher 3: Wild Hunt. The game's map is so large that it would take approximately 30 minutes to ride from one end to the other on horseback. The game's development team included over 240 people. The game features over 800 speaking roles, with over 35,000 lines of dialogue. The game was so successful that it won over 250 Game of the Year awards in 2015. The game's composer, Marcin Chabilovich, used real medieval instruments and traditional Slavic music as inspiration for the game's soundtrack. The game's protagonist, Geralt of Rivia, is based on a series of Polish fantasy novels by Andrzej Sapkowski. The game's developers included many Easter eggs and references to other popular games, such as Assassin's Creed and Skyrim. The game's story has multiple branching paths and endings, depending on the choices the player makes throughout the game. The game's Gwent card game became so popular that it was eventually developed into a standalone game. The game's development was so challenging that the development team reportedly worked 6 to 7 day weeks for several years leading up to the game's release. Cool facts about The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. The game's development began in 2013, shortly after the release of The Legend of Zelda: Skyward Sword, and took over 4 years to complete. Breath of the Wild was initially intended to be a Wii U exclusive, but later in development, a Nintendo Switch version was added. The game features a dynamic weather system that affects gameplay, with rain making surfaces slippery and lightning posing a danger to metal objects and Link himself. There are multiple endings to the game, with the true ending only being unlocked by completing a specific set of tasks. The game's world is over 12 times larger than the world of Twilight Princess, the previous largest Zelda game. The game features voice acting for the first time in the series, with the voice of Zelda being provided by Patricia Summerset. The development team drew inspiration from other open-world games, such as Skyrim and The Witcher 3, as well as the original Legend of Zelda. The game was praised for its physics engine, which allows for creative solutions to puzzles and combat encounters. The game's music was composed by Monika Kataoka and Yasuaki Iwata, with the main theme being a reimagining of the original Legend of Zelda theme. Cool facts about Fortnite: the game was first announced in 2011 but was not released until 2017, after several years of development. The original version of Fortnite was a cooperative survival game, but it was later changed to a battle royale format after the success of similar games like PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. The game's Battle Royale mode was created in just 2 months and was released as a free-to-play game, making it accessible to a wide audience. In 2018, Fortnite became the most watched game on Twitch, surpassing other popular titles like League of Legends and PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Fortnite has had several in-game events, including a virtual concert featuring the musician Marshmello, which attracted over 10 million players. The game's developer Epic Games has used the popularity of Fortnite to launch its own digital storefront, offering games from other developers. The game has had several crossover events, including collaborations with Marvel, DC Comics, and Star Wars, allowing players to use skins and weapons from these franchises. In 2019, Fortnite was briefly banned in Iran, with the government citing concerns about the game's addictive nature and its impact on young people. Cool facts about Minecraft: Minecraft's terrain is generated through a process called Perlin noise, which is a type of procedural generation algorithm. This means that the game uses a mathematical formula to create random terrain that looks natural and realistic. However, the Perlin noise algorithm used in Minecraft has a quirk that makes certain numbers more likely to occur than others. Specifically, the number 53 appears more frequently than other numbers, which can lead to unusual patterns in the game's terrain. This quirk was originally discovered by Minecraft developer Jens Bergensten, who noticed that rivers and coastlines in the game tended to have a blocky appearance due to the prevalence of the number 53. While it may seem like a small detail, this quirk has become a part of Minecraft's charm and has even inspired some players to create mods that deliberately incorporate the number 53 into the game's mechanics. Cool facts about GTA 5: the game's 3 main characters, Michael, Franklin, and Trevor, were all inspired by different characters from classic films. Michael was inspired by Robert De Niro's character in Heat, Franklin was inspired by O-Dog from Menace to Society, and Trevor was inspired by Joe Pesci's character in Goodfellas. The game's city of Los Santos is based on real-life Los Angeles, but it also contains elements of other cities such as Las Vegas and Miami. The game's online multiplayer mode, GTA Online, has generated over $1 billion in revenue for Rockstar Games since its release in 2013. The game's radio stations feature over 240 licensed songs, making it one of the largest licensed soundtracks in video game history. The game's development was so secretive that some members of the voice cast did not know they were working on a Grand Theft Auto game until after they had already recorded their lines. The game's map is so large that it takes roughly 15 minutes to drive from one end to the other. The game's director mode allows players to create their own movies using in-game characters, props, and locations. The game's story mode contains over 80 missions, and it can take over 30 hours to complete them all. Cool facts about RDR2. Red Dead Redemption 2 has over 500,000 lines of dialogue, making it one of the most dialogue-rich games ever made. The game features a realistic weather system that not only affects the environment but also the gameplay. For example, rain can make it harder to see and harder to control your horse. The game's soundtrack was recorded by a 110-piece orchestra and a 40-person choir, making it one of the largest video game soundtracks ever produced. Red Dead Redemption 2 has a dynamic NPC, non-player character, system that allows NPCs to have their own schedules and routines, making the game's world feel more alive and realistic. The game has over 200 species of animals, each with their own behaviors and animations. Red Dead Redemption 2 has a fully functional in-game physics engine that simulates everything from horse movement to gun recoil. The game's main character, Arthur Morgan, has over 700 unique animations, making him one of the most realistically animated video game characters ever created. Red Dead Redemption 2 was in development for over 8 years, with a team of over 2,000 people working on the game at its peak.